This show is intended to help listeners understand the new opportunities that are now available to college and high school athletes as it relates to name, image, and likeness. The information contained in this show is only meant for educational purposes and is not meant to be legal advice or to establish an attorney-client relationship. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Court to Court with the Esquire Coach. I'm your host, Cassandra Ramsey, and I love to talk about all things sports, entertainment, and the law. In today's episode, we're going to get into a lot of college sports news, as this has yet again been another big college sports news week. Then we're going to get into some legal topics that prospective college athletes, and their parents should be aware of. And then we're going to end the show with even more college sports news and a Black History Month highlight. Today's episode will be structured a little differently, as I'm going to start with one of the biggest college sports news stories over the past week. And that story is the return of the college football video game. That's right, it's in the game yet again for college sports fans, particularly college football fans. The return of this game is a big deal. It's a big deal for college athletes, it's a big deal for college sports fans, and it is a big deal for college athletes' rights advocates. The return of this game is the culmination of an effort that started many years ago when Ed O'Bannon sued the NCAA, EA Sports, and Collegiate Licensing Company for the use of his NIL in a college sports video game. Since then, that case has been blamed with the discontinuation of the college sports video game, but that's not exactly true. So what happened in that case, and we talked about this up here before, but the return of this game bears mentioning this case again. So what happened in that case was Ed O'Bannon saw an avatar of himself in a college basketball video game. This was around 2009. And even though the avatar didn't bear his name, it played for the 1995 UCLA championship team that Ed O'Bannon played for. It wore his jersey number, it was left-handed, and it was bald-headed, all like Ed O'Bannon. So even though it didn't have his name, it was clear that the avatar was portraying Ed O'Bannon. And after seeing this, Ed O'Bannon sued because he was not paid at all for the use of his likeness in that game. EA Sports and Collegiate Licensing Company settled their portion of the lawsuit, and they were willing to keep making the video game, but the NCAA denied because they continued through with the lawsuit. And that lawsuit was a pivotal moment in the college athletes' rights movement. Even though it didn't give us NIL rights, it still set the stage for the fact that the NCAA's rules are subject to federal antitrust law, which has been the basis of many successful cases that have come up before the NCAA since then. And it set the foundation for the states to enact their NIL laws. The return of this video game is very exciting, as the college football players will be able to earn NIL compensation. All 134 FBS college teams have agreed to participate in the game, and the players have the ability to choose whether or not if they want to be included in the game, so they get to opt in or opt out. So what is their incentive to opt in? For players who agree to participate in the game, they will receive $600 plus a copy of the game, which is valued at $70. Players who opt in the game will remain in the game for multiple years through their eligibility, and they will be paid annually for their continued participation in the game. But if they want to be left out of the game in future editions, they just have to provide timely notice to EA Sports. Players who transfer will also be compensated as long as they remain on the active roster. And players who choose not to be included in the game will be represented by a generic avatar. The game will include a mode where fans of the game who play the game will be able to create players, but they will not be able to create a college football player who has opted out of the game. So you may be wondering, how did EA Sports come up with the $600 number? Sean O'Brien, EA Sports Vice President of Business and Development, stated that they consider other games that they have, like the Madden game, the NHL series, the soccer series, and they use those deals to arrive at the $600 number. And you may even be questioning, is $600 really fair compensation for each college athlete? Well, let's consider some things. There's 134 FBS programs, and each can carry 85 football players on their rosters. So if you multiply that times 600, you're at about $6.8 million of NIL compensation that is available to all college football players who opt into the game at the FBS level. So that's a pretty big deal, because this provides an opportunity for almost all college football players to be able to gain some form of NIL compensation. However, there are other things that need to be considered, and this is especially true for your more known football players who may have larger social media followings, or football players who may be in the Heisman Trophy conversation, right? These players have, I think, more negotiating leverage and more negotiating power, and should use that power. Things that they should consider is, are there any kind of royalties that may be able to be negotiated attached with the game for players who have that kind of marketing and negotiation leverage. There are also other opportunities that EA Sports announced to come with the game. There will be another deal for the player who is going to be on the cover of the game. There are also deals available for players to be ambassadors of the game or marketers of the game, so that would be subject to another compensation structure. And these opportunities are, or at least the opportunity to be an ambassador for the game, is not limited just to the college football players. They're also making it available to other college athletes. So it could be a women's gymnast who may sign on with EA Sports to be an ambassador of the game. So that is a great opportunity across the board for all college athletes. All of that to say that any college football player, or even a college athlete who's considering being a brand ambassador for this game or any other NIL deal, definitely should consult an attorney and make sure you have someone who is able to review the deal with you. Make sure that the deal makes sense for you and who you are as an athlete and as a person, and for your athletic reputation and the negotiation leverage that you have. So you should consider working with an attorney like myself, or someone who can help you identify what's in your best interest for each NIL deal. The return of the college football video game brings up another important topic that I believe needs to be discussed, and that topic is group licensing. What is group licensing? Group licensing is an agreement to allow a third-party company such as EA Sports or Fanatics to use the NIL and athletic reputation of a group of athletes in their products. So just look at the professional context, where you have the Madden football game, and you may have a jersey hanging in your closet right now with your favorite football player. All of those things are able to be created because the NFL Players Association negotiates with these companies under a group license for the interest of all players in the league. Unionization now is one of the major elephants in the room as it relates to college athletes. We just had the Dartmouth men's basketball players win their hearing at the National Labor Relations Board regional office in Boston. They said that those players are able to form a union. Now, Dartmouth College is appealing that ruling, but right now a union election is scheduled for March 5th. So it appears that unionization is coming to college athletics, and it really appears to be the way of the future. Now, how it will actually play out and how it will look remains to be seen, as it is not a one-size-fits-all, because you do have different levels of college athletics, just evidenced by the fact that you have a Division I, a Division II, a Division III. So the unionization effort may not look the same for each level of college athletics, but it does appear to be the way of the future and where we're headed, and it will help make deals like this more smooth and transparent. Now we're going to get into another news story that will help me illustrate some concepts that you need to understand as a current or prospective college athlete, or the parent of a current or prospective college athlete. And that news story is that it was reported that Angel Reese decided not to further pursue her trademark application for Bayou Barbie. Since playing at LSU, Angel Reese has made a name for herself by referring to herself as the Bayou Barbie. People call her that. That's what she goes by. So she has become known as that. And she applied to register Bayou Barbie as a federally registered trademark. But she just recently decided not to further pursue that because the likelihood of it being denied by the PTO, or the United States Patent and Trademark Office, is because that trademark or that name, Bayou Barbie, would be likely to be confused with being related to Mattel, which is the company that owns Barbie. This is the perfect setup for the concept that I wanted to talk about today, which is intellectual property. A trademark is a type of intellectual property. So, what is intellectual property or IP? Intellectual property refers to creations of the mind, such as inventions or artistic works, designs, symbols, names. There are 4 types of intellectual property: trademark, copyright, patent, and trade secret. We'll start first with patent. Patent is an exclusive right granted for an invention. Whatever device you're watching this video on, whether it be your phone or your computer, it contains a number of patents. The iPhone, it has patents for their chips and all types of things like that. The next type of IP is a trade secret. Trade secrets are intellectual property rights on confidential information which may be sold or licensed. The most known example of that is the Coca-Cola formula. The next 2 types of IP I'm going to spend a little more time on, as I believe that those are the most applicable to college athletes. And those are copyrights and trademarks. So a copyright is a type of IP that protects original works of authorship that are fixed in the tangible medium of expression. That's the legal jargon. Let's break down what that means. Basically, copyright is something that you create, that the author creates, that can be perceived, heard, watched, or whatever by another person. And it has to be fixed or laid out in such a way that another person can perceive it. Types of copyright is music, film, books, things of that nature. So whatever device that you're watching this on or listen to your music on that has a patent, you're listening to copyrighted material through that, whether it's music or watching a TV show. And lastly, which is what we started the segment talking about, is a trademark. A trademark can be any word, phrase, symbol, design, or combination thereof that identifies your goods or services. So trademarks are basically how consumers recognize a business's brand. So let's keep it in the sports context, something that I'm pretty sure a lot of sports people like: shoes. My favorite example comes from Nike, because Nike has almost every type of trademark that you can think of, right? They have the word mark, Nike. So that's the word. They have their check, the swoosh. That's their design mark or their logo. Then they have their slogan, just do it. Other type of things that can be trademarked is sounds. So keep it again in the sports context. Think ESPN, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. We all know when we heard that we're about to see a ESPN broadcast. You can have colors can be trademarked. When you see that Home Depot orange, you know you're about to go to the Home Depot hardware store. So trademarks are basically source identifiers, and it signals to the consumers that once they get a certain product or service, that it is going to come from that company and that it should have a certain level of value and like product quality. So let's get back to Angel Reese. Like I said, Angel Reese has decided not to further pursue her trademark application for Bayou Barbie because it has essentially a 0% chance of being granted federal trademark protection, because Mattel owns Barbie and owns the trademark registration for that. So the lesson here as a college athlete who is looking to build a brand is to make sure that you're building a brand around something that you are going to be able to own or protect. So how can you do that? You can work with attorneys, such as myself, and have strategic sessions where you talk about what you are considering to build your brand around, what names you are considering, what names you may be considering naming your business, and work with someone or an attorney who can help you conduct what's called a trademark search and make sure that the brand or business name that you want is actually available to you and something that you would be able to own and protect with federal trademark registration. Now we're going to get into another major news story. I know it's been a big news week for college sports, and this story here was another doozy for the NCAA. A federal judge in Tennessee granted a preliminary injunction stopping the NCAA from being able to enforce their NIL recruitment rules. This means that the NCAA right now can no longer enforce their NIL recruitment rules. This comes after just a couple of months ago in December when a federal judge stopped the NCAA from being able to enforce their transfer rules. So what happened in this case? In early February, the state attorney generals in Tennessee and Virginia sued the NCAA, alleging that their NIL recruitment rules were a violation of, you guessed it, federal antitrust law. The states contended that not allowing NIL to be used as a recruitment inducement forces athletes to commit and enroll and transfer to a school without fully understanding their NIL opportunities and putting them at a disadvantage. The plaintiff states, Virginia and Tennessee, asserted that very few athletes go pro and that their most marketable time is in college and that they should be able to negotiate the best NIL deal possible. When they filed the complaint or issued the lawsuit, they were seeking what's called a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction. So a temporary restraining order is usually in it first and lasts, roughly two weeks. However, the judge at that time denied a temporary restraining order because he didn't see any damages that the plaintiff states would suffer that could not be fixed with money. Because when you're seeking a temporary restraining order, it's known as like injunctive relief, and you're trying to stop something from happening so that you don't face a type of damage that that cannot be fixed with money. But the judge didn't see any of those type of damages there at the time. So because of that, I thought that the preliminary injunction would not be entered either, because I didn't think that there would be, based on a similar type of ruling, that there's no damages here that money can't fix. But the judge did in fact find that there are damages here that cannot be remedied with money, but not for the plaintiff states, but for the college athletes themselves. The judge found that college athletes are subject to irreparable harm by not being able to negotiate their true NIL value. The judge reasoned that a college athlete's most marketable time is when they are deciding which school to attend or to transfer to, and that not being able to use NIL or negotiate their NIL during that time puts them at a disadvantage that is irreparable and that money damages cannot fix. Therefore, the judge entered the preliminary injunction, allowing NIL conversations to be able to happen during the recruitment process. This is major news, as on my last show, we talked about NIL collectives and their role in the college athletics landscape. Now you're going to have cases where NIL collectives will be able to talk to prospects, college athletes who are considered attending that school as a first-time student, or college athletes who are considering transferring to a certain school. They're going to be able to have conversations with them and have NIL conversations with in potential NIL deals or NIL compensation on the table. So the issuance of this preliminary injunction is essentially another major blow for the NCAA. The NCAA finds itself in a situation where it cannot enforce its rules regarding transfers. It cannot enforce its rules regarding NIL collectives and using NIL as a recruiting inducement. So it begs the question of, what does the NCAA do? How should the NCAA move forward? How can the organization become a more player-centric organization that can effectively represent the interests of its players in this new landscape? It's becoming almost increasingly clear every day that some type of employment model is coming to college athletics, like I mentioned earlier with the Dartmouth case. And then there's also a case pending in California with USC that's before the National Labor Relations Board regional office out there. So some type of employment model is likely coming to college athletics. So where does the NCAA go? How does it evolve? The NCAA is currently lobbying Congress for many different efforts, one being granted a federal antitrust exemption. I don't think that this is the way to go, and the Supreme Court has made it clear that the Supreme Court would not be granting the NCAA federal antitrust exemption in Austin versus NCAA. But I would hate to see a situation where the players lose one of their strongest ways to advocate for their rights. One last note about this case. As I was preparing for this segment and I was reading the ruling that the judge entered, in the very beginning of it, when they're spelling out the background information, I'm just reading along like, yeah, okay, I know that. And then all of a sudden I see Cassandra Ramsey, NIL Collective's Title IX latest challenge. And I'm like, is my law review article being cited in this ruling? And I was just so excited and just completely just flabbergasted. Just like, it was just a wild moment for me just to see that, and that my law review article was used as part of the research for writing this ruling. Just a bit of news that I wanted to share. Another NIL news story that I saw during the NBA All-Star weekends was NBA Commissioner Adam Silver's comments on the NBA G League team at night. During NBA All-Star weekend, Adam Silver made comments that the league is reconsidering the continued existence of the NBA G League team at night. For those who may not know, the NBA G League team at night was created back in 2018 to provide an option for elite basketball players who wanted an opportunity to play at an elite level and be paid while doing so in that gap year between high school and being draft eligible for the NBA draft. So they created the NBA G League team at night. But in that time, college athletes have gained the right to profit from their NIL, and then all type of financial opportunities became available for college athletes through that process. So due to that, Adam Silver has alluded to the NBA considering whether or not if they're going to continue to move forward with the NBA G League at night program. I can understand a little bit why Adam Silver may be considering whether or not they're going to move forward with the program. But the program has produced some top NBA draft picks, such as Jalen Green, who currently plays for the Houston Rockets. I think that there is room for both college and for the NBA at night team, so players can have an option just to decide which way they want to go, which path they want to take getting into the NBA. But it will be interesting to see what happens for the future of that program. Congratulations are in order for Iowa women's basketball star Caitlin Clark, who just became the all-time leading scorer in women's college basketball. On February 15, Clark scored a career high and program record of 49 points when she eclipsed Kelsey Plum's record for the most career points. Clark scored and assisted on 79 points in that game in the team's victory over Michigan at 106-89. Clark hit a three-pointer, which marked her 3,528th career point. Congratulations to Caitlin Clark. Another bit of college sports news comes from Amazon Prime, who is producing a NIL-focused docuseries about college athletes who attend LSU. The docuseries is entitled The Money Game. Campfire Film and TV is paying LSU $1 million for the exclusive rights to produce the docuseries. This compensation agreement is separate from the talent fee that Campfire will negotiate with the participating athletes. Campfire will provide a contract to each participating college athlete detailing their responsibilities and compensation. The series will follow the life of several college athletes attending LSU during this new NIL landscape. It is February, it's Black History Month, so I have to do another Black History Month highlight. My first highlight goes to Carolyn Peck. Before Dawn Staley, there was Carolyn Peck, who became the first Black woman head coach to coach a NCAA championship team. In 1999, Carolyn Peck won the NCAA championship with Purdue University in a victory over Duke University 62-45. Since then, Peck was the head coach of the former WNBA franchise, the Orlando Miracle, for 3 seasons, and during that time, the team went to the 2000 WNBA Finals. Peck also coached at the University of Florida, where she led one of the greatest turnaround seasons in program history in 2003-2004. And in 2023, Peck was inducted into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. My next Black History Month highlight goes to John Thompson. John Thompson was the legendary Georgetown Hoya basketball coach who became the first Black coach to win an NCAA men's basketball championship. Thompson took the Hoyas to 3 Final Fours in the 80s and won 7 Big East titles. He led the 1988 United States national team to a bronze medal in the Olympics. Thompson was sure to stand up for causes that he believed in when he walked off the court in 1989 before a game against Boston College to protest Proposition 42, an NCAA measure that would ban academically ineligible freshmen from receiving scholarships. Thompson said that he protested because he believed the proposition aimed to limit opportunities for minority students. Thompson coached several NBA Hall of Famers, such as Allen Iverson, Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, and Dikembe Mutombo. Thompson was inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame in 1999. We have reached the end of today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching the show and for supporting me. If you would like the latest in college sports news, please follow me on our socials that are displayed here at the bottom of the screen. For more information, you can visit my website, www.theesquirecoach. There you will also see a form where you can sign up for my newsletter and receive a NIL contract checklist where I highlight some terms that any college athlete or athlete considering an NIL deal should be familiar with and consider before they enter the deal. And you can also find a link to that NIL checklist in the bottom of the show notes. See you guys next time.